Howdy and hello everyone, and welcome to 5008 Trackside, a series where I look into a rail service while showing clips of it in action. Today's episode is rather special as we are sending off the branding that an Amtrak Sate Supported service has worn for over 50 years, that being Amtrak San Joaquins, which was just officially renamed to Gold Runner. So, let's look through some of this service in action while I give you info on the service's history and its current and future operations. Our first shot brings us to the service's terminus of Bakersfield, where we see train 710 arriving into the station after making its full 6-hour journey from the Bay Area. Leading 710 this day was non-powered control unit 9218. The San Joaquins route was initially not a part of Amtrak's system. In 1971, when Amtrak service first began, all trains that traveled from Los Angeles to the Bay Area ran along the coastal route owned by the Southern Pacific, now owned by Union Pacific. In 1972, Amtrak began looking into the idea of bringing service back to the Central Valley, mainly due to area Congressman Bernice F. Sisk urging them to do so. The first San Joaquins train ran on March 5, 1974, with one daily round trip between Oakland and Bakersfield. Next up, we stay in Bakersfield for a rather rare sight. This is train 715, but on this day, for some reason, it was missing the cab control coach normally at the back of San Joaquins trains, showing off the back of coach 8014. Here we see the train making a reverse move to get onto the second track of Bakersfield to let on an incoming train into Platform 1.
Train 715, they are moving it over to track number 2 to make way for an inbound train. Please stand clear of the yellow line and do not cross into the center. Once the train comes back along track 2 and it's safe to do so, we will make an announcement for boarding.
Number 702 will be arriving at 12:02 p.m.
San Joaquins trains normally run in a few configurations. Nowadays, the usual consist is one of 3 options. A set of 4 bi-level Alstom/Morrison-Knudsen California cars with a cab car trailing, and a Comet 1B coach to meet BNSF's 28-axle minimum, a set of 7 Venture coaches with either a loco at both ends or a loco at one end and a non-powered control unit at the other, or, temporarily, a set of 7 Venture coaches, a Venture cab car, and a California car to cover the Venture cab car while they finish their necessary testing. Once all Venture cab cars and sets are in service, the California cars will be phased out of the service for use on the San Joaquins' former sister services, Capital Corridor and Surfliner. I say former for a reason that I will touch on later. Now we head south to Corcoran, California, a small town that isn't completely unheard of for rail fans due to the high-speed BNSF trains that head through the area. The first train we will be seeing is train 710 with locomotive 2106 at the lead. When it comes to Venture sets, Corcoran is special as the Venture set is often too long to fit on the platform, so trains will have to pull partially onto the railroad crossing. Loco 2106 is a locomotive owned by the California Department of Transportation, or Caltrans. 2106 is one of 10 Siemens SC44 Chargers built for San Joaquins and Capital Corridor. They arrived in 2017 and run alongside the much older EMD F59 PHI locomotives, replacing a few of them. Speaking of which, let's head over to the other side of the platform for train 717. 717 has Loco 2012 leading, my personal favorite F59 owned by Caltrans. Next up, we head once again to the other side of the platform to see train 712. 712 has 9218 leading, which we saw earlier on train 710. 9218 is an original Amtrak F40PH locomotive initially built in 1975. In the early 2000s, it was gutted and turned into a non-powered control unit, allowing it to continue running, now without an engine. As the 9218 heads off into the distance, let's hop onto a San Joaquins train to see what it's like as we head to our next location of Hanford. This is the inside of one of the new Venture train sets. They're nice, spacious, and are very modern. They have two downsides, however. One is their rather upright and stiff seats, which thankfully have become softer as more passengers wear them in. But the biggest and more prominent issue is the lack of a cafe car. Unlike the Midwest order of Ventures, Caltrans never ordered Venture Cafe cars, which means that now the only way to get food on board is via a free snack station, which isn't exactly the most filling. Apparently, the SJJPA, the main operators of the service, want to at some point get vending machines, which, while they work, is still not at the same level as a full-on cafe car, which is frustrating to see. However, thankfully, the SJJPA has plans to not only give this service business class, which will have its own free snack food similar to Surfliner, but are also planning on giving the service food cart service similar to an airplane or on services such as Brightline, where an attendant will walk through the train to take food orders. As our ride continues, I'll fill you in on some details regarding the rebranding. San Joaquins, now Gold Runner, will be coinciding with Altamont Corridor Express to form the Valley Rail project. This will greatly expand Gold Runner and ACE's reach across the Central Valley and will give California High-Speed Rail a great connection once it begins operations in 2032, as long as the debacle currently happening with Shafter doesn't lead to anything major. While it's not stated, based on everything planned and the rumors that have been circulating, which there have been a lot of rumors circulating, it appears the reason for the rename is that the SJJPA can gain full control of the service, as Amtrak owns the San Joaquins name and branding. The SJJPA owns Gold Runner and its branding. The depth of this control is something I will touch on later in this video. Now we step off of the train and head to the insanely underrated spot of the Hanford Quintuple Crossings. No, you didn't hear that wrong. 5 crossings all in a row, where we catch train 712 with NPCU 9278 on a Venture set. The town of Hanford is significantly larger than Corcoran, just without the high-speed freight trains. But in my opinion, that is far made up for by the insane amount of horn action given by those quintuple crossings. Now we jump over to the actual Hanford station as we catch good old 2012 on train 717 arriving and departing the station with its nice K5LA horn. Now we once again head away from the platform to this spot in the quintuple crossings next to a diamond where local freight tracks cross the BNSF main line. Here we see train 714 making a late departure from Hanford due to freight interference up the line. 714 was being led by California cab car 8301. Now we make our way over to a crossing right at the north edge of Hanford for two more trains. First up is train 713 with SC44 Charger 2103 at the lead. Next up is 9278 once again on train 702, one of the two trains that goes to Sacramento rather than Oakland. Now let's hop back on and head to Martinez. While we do this, let's go ahead and theorize about what a full SJJPA takeover of the service could look like. The most moderate form this could take is similar to how things are. The only difference would be Amtrak would no longer provide staff or equipment for the service, meaning no NPCUs, and all staff would be hired by the SJJPA. It's safe to assume Amtrak employees who work the San Joaquins would be put onto Gold Runner if this were to happen. The next level is a more realistic look at how this would work. I'd imagine the SJJPA would take ownership of all venture sets and staff their trains, but they would enter an agreement with Caltrans to continue using their Chargers and F-59s. The most intense and rather unlikely level is a full split from the state and Amtrak. This would mean the SJJPA would fully staff, operate, and own the equipment for their trains. With the venture coaches, this would be easy as these are only used on the San Joaquins anyways. However, for the locomotives, it's a different story. It's pretty unlikely that Caltrans would just hand over some of their roster, but if it were to happen, I'd imagine Caltrans would give the SJJPA 2101 through 08 and keep 23 and 24 because those ones were already add-on orders, and I doubt they'd fully want to get rid of the Chargers on their service. They could also very well get their own scheme, mainly for the Chargers, or just straight up their own locomotives, but it would probably not be too different from what we see currently. And now we have made it to Martinez, one of the last few places we will be seeing the San Joaquins, where we see two more trains. First up is train 713 with Loco 2006 at the lead. Martinez is by far my favorite station along the San Joaquins route, all because of these hills in the background, which are beautiful no matter what time of year you see them in. Next up is train 715, with Loco 2005 at the lead, in the nice, blinding golden sun. As 715 departs, let's hop over to the location where we'll be ending this video, the San Francisco Bay Trail. Along the San Francisco Bay Trail, we will see one final train, train 716, making its way to Bakersfield. And with that was the Amtrak San Joaquins. While I'll save my thoughts on the rename because I said them in this video, it's safe to say the plans the SJJPA has for the service are great and will continue to bring better connectivity to the Bay Area and the Central Valley for years to come. So with that, so long San Joaquins, and as always, I was 5008 Creations, you were the viewer, and I'll see you in the future. Goodbye.